George Floyd's funeral is attended by thousands. Protests break all records. Trump wants to shut it all down.
We won't be defunding our police.
From his new address on Black Lives Matter Plaza, Space Force loses a battle to Netflix. Romney goes to Washington, and Bill and Ted go to prison. All this and more today in Old News. Strap in, folks. This is the end. No, it's not the end of the world, but the end of the world as we know it. As coronavirus infections top 2 million cases in the United States, all across the globe, crowds surge to record numbers. They're pulling down statues of slave traders and racist douchebags from across the centuries, and decapitated this statue of Christopher Columbus. Oh yeah, if you didn't know, Christopher Columbus was an asshole. Seriously, look it up. If you have a daughter, you're not gonna like this guy. They painted "Defund the Police" in front of the White House. This Marine stood for so many hours in silent protest in the Utah sun that his shoes melted into the pavement. All this as thousands gather for George Floyd's funeral in Houston.
I want justice for my brother, my big brother. That's Big Floyd. Everybody knows who Big Floyd is now.
Why in this nation do too many black Americans wake up knowing that they could lose their life in the course of just living their life?
Back in the days when I used to be part of marches, all the marchers were black. But now, there are white people who know the story. And there are Hispanics who know the story. And there are Asians who know the story.
And police continue to display excessive force to protest against excessive force.
We're out here peacefully protesting, but they're armed like they're going to war.
The movement has broken all records for American protests. It's not drawing attention to the problems of inequality. We all know they're there, always have. And this movement is drawing attention to that.
Nothing has changed. What are we supposed to do?
That notion that it's just the way it is. Well, folks are saying that absolutely will not do. And of course, impeached president and controversial orange face actor Donald Trump is in hot water again, this time for declaring in the most professional manner possible, Twitter, that this 75-year-old man was working for Antifa, a not actually group he declared a terrorist organization last week. Don't worry, Nazis, KKK, white supremacist groups, and incels are all fine. The paranoid dictator claimed the 75-year-old man was a member of Antifa, scanning police communications in order to block the equipment. Then he threw himself backwards after being pushed to make the police look bad. See that pool of blood? Don't worry, folks. It's all part of the show. Of course, there was absolutely no evidence of this. So what was the most powerful man in the world who has access to the nuclear button source for this fantastic theory? He heard it straight from the mouths of the kooks at OANN. So it must be true. And here's how Senate Republicans reacted to Trump's Twitter correspondence.
What do you make of the president's tweet this morning? And does the president need to be more cautious about what he tweets?
You want to weigh in about the president's tweet this morning on the Buffalo protester?
Do you think the president needs to be more careful about his tweets like the one this morning? What did you think of the president's tweet?
We won't be defunding our police. We won't be dismantling our police.
The frightened leader proclaimed from his office on Black Lives Matter Plaza, surrounded by nearly 2 miles of fence and barricades. I guess he finally did build that wall. Sadly, it's coming down. For now.
Today is probably, if you think of it, the greatest comeback in American history.
He's railing about how good the economy is doing. Yes, all the white furloughed workers got their jobs back.
We're told another 1.5 million Americans filed for unemployment benefits last week.
The Dow down more than 700 points.
Hopefully George is looking down right now and saying this is a great thing that's happening for our country.
A super shitty thing to say, especially from a man whose administration is being sued by civil rights groups, and the U.S. stands accused of breaking international law with our protest response. But for the rest of the people who actually live in this country, a whole lot has changed in a week. Breonna's law passed unanimously in Kentucky. The White House's street was changed to Black Lives Matter Plaza. The Confederate flag was banned at NASCAR. IBM and Amazon have stopped development of facial recognition software. And U.S. Democrats propose sweeping legislation for police reform, all while wearing kente cloths from Ghana. Look at those old white people trying. In light of the past weeks, there's a lot of pressure to reform the police. Think about this. How do you feel when the police are behind you when you're driving? Well, in other countries, that's not the case. Holland, for example, the home of legal drugs, gambling, and prostitution, has so little crime the police have very little to do.
I can't believe we haven't even heard the radio. The radio hasn't gone, there's a crime.
No.
There's just no crime happening.
No.
Like none.
None.
They're actually friends with everybody. People are happy to see them. I guess if less things are illegal, there's less crime. And it's like that in many European countries.
The Swiss believe the purpose of a nation's drug policy should be to reduce the harm drugs cause their society. Like many Europeans, they treat substance abuse more as a health problem than a criminal problem.
We should change the way in which we deal with all drug abuse. Nobody should be going to jail for the use of drugs. They should be going to mandatory rehabilitation. We should be building rehab centers, not more prisons.
Locals pass joints with no apparent worries, ignored by others who simply enjoy life in a society that believes tolerating alternative lifestyles makes more sense than building more prisons.
Damn. Called out by Rick Steves. What most people don't know is that Rick Steves is actually dead. Yes, he filmed all that stuff in the late 70s against a blue screen. And they've been filling in the backgrounds for the last 40 years. True story. But European police in general have a much different approach to law enforcement.
I've got him. It's all right.
Hello, mate.
Honestly, bruv, I've got nothing to do with that, but I've never done a burglary.
That's the call that we've got, so that's why we've stopped you, so that's all. All right.
We'll get it sorted.
We will get it sorted.
One thing that I think British police are probably quite good at is talking, communicating.
As we saw when these vacationing Swedish police officers de-escalated a brawl on a New York subway.
Okay? Sir, calm down, okay? Everything will be okay. Are you injured? No. Okay?
Which led us to uncover this shameless, candid video of Swedish police.
Grab your coat and get your hat. Leave your worry on the doorstep. Just direct your feet to the sunny side of the street. Can't you hear the pitter-pat? And that happy tune is your step. Life can be so sweet on the sunny side of the street. I used to walk in the shade.
Disgusting. Liberals and conservatives alike have made proposals for police reform, including the Justice Act, a measure proposed by the Republican Senate's only black guy. Others have gone much further. Minneapolis promises to disband the entire police department.
We're not talking about hitting the eject button on the police tomorrow. We're talking about engaging a plan to create a public safety system that works for everyone.
Our city governments are using our tax dollars to primarily pay for an economy of punishment over an economy of care.
911 calls will do what they already do, but probably better. What if it could bring social workers, public health workers, substance abuse workers, child protective workers, instead of just police, fire, and ambulance?
We're asking cops to do too much in this country. Every societal failure, we put it off on the cops to solve. Not enough mental health funding. Let the cop handle it. Not enough drug addiction funding. Let's give it to the cops. Here in Dallas, we got a loose dog problem. Let's have the cops chase loose dogs.
I think we should turn over as much as we can to non-armed police officers. We're going to change the way in which we hold police departments accountable.
And the biggest sign of real change? The 32-year-old television program glorifying police violence, Cops, has been canceled.
And in other news, ex-presidential candidate and Bruce Campbell character Mitt Romney attended a Black Lives Matter protest with a mask on.
We need a voice against racism. We need many voices against racism and against brutality. We need to stand up and say that Black Lives Matter.
Causing the mentally infirm president to taunt him for being an all-around decent fucking human being. Good job, Mitt. See you on the ballot in 2024.
The president is creating a new branch in the United States military, Space Force, which Mark will run.
It appears Netflix has secured the trademark for Space Force, their new comedy based on Trump's band of elite starfighters. Before the U.S. government could get around to doing it. Sorry, Trump. That's the perils of the open market. And finally, screw the virus, the protests, the murder hornets. This is the most important news of 2020. The Bill and Ted Face the Music trailer has been released. They look old. Here's a clip of them saying, fuck it, anything. It's just all so old.
Be excellent to each other. And party on, dudes. We've spent our whole life trying to write the song that will unite the world. Why can't we just go to the future when we have written it? Whoa! And take it from ourselves! But isn't that stealing?
They land in a prison, likely saying that they're being punished for trying to steal the song. But this reporter hopes it's saying that San Dimas has turned into a prison colony. The Wild Stallions actually united the world by turning their hometown into a dystopian dungeon wasteland a la the Bad Bunch, where every day is the purge.
No way!
I'll watch it. I hope it's not as bad as it's going to be.
And as you know, television goes off the air this time every night. Join us again tomorrow morning for Howdy Doody.